Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be reviewing the P-38 Lightning. Now this one is a really incredible aircraft over in the Microsoft Flight Simulator marketplace right now, and it is my favorite World War II airplane. There's a lot of really neat World War II airplanes, the B-29, especially the B-24 are definitely my favorites, but this one just takes the cake. Let's get started. So first things first, this is a very detailed model. I'm very impressed both with the physical modeling as well as the systems modeling of this aircraft. There's really a lot going on here that you will never get to see because it's all kind of under the hood. One thing the developer did provide us with, if you come over here on the side, is they give us this little tablet. And the neat thing about this tablet, if I can manage to pull it out of its little hidey hole over there in the corner, is it gives you a bunch of options. It gives you a complete checklist here. It gives us all the critical speeds. It also gives us things like our live data if we want to know how the aircraft is and stuff like that. This is the second time I've reinstalled it, but that's a different issue. We have all our stats. We have a loadout option. We have autopilot. We can tune things up if we break anything. And of course, we have some options. We're going to leave dynamic engine stresses off today. Don't be surprised if I still lose an engine for the purposes of actually not running it. Letting the fuel boost pump kind of expire is the best way to describe that. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. The important thing, though, is it gives us some critical information here about priming. Now, we're definitely going to need that later on. Retract eye flaps. These kind of pop out without it. We should have no power, so there should be no dive flaps. Definitely need to exercise those dive flaps a couple times. All right, let's do it. So we're going to do an abbreviated startup procedure. I'm not going to do anything the way you're supposed to be using it any sort of way. The purpose of this is just to kind of get us going so we can kind of run it through its paces and see kind of what I think about it as we go into flying around. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and get some fuel selectors all set. Let's see here. Go ahead and set that. Sometimes it's difficult to get these switches. Click. I like how you can actually activate the other side fuel selector as well, which is really impressive. Go ahead and click this to this position right there. Looks pretty good real quickly. We got some fuel pumps back here too. I love how the fuel pump switch is in a funky spot. I also like the fact that there's two different speeds of the fuel pump. There's the emergency mode and then there's kind of the normal mode that we use as well. So that's all been set on, which is what we need. Still trying to get the mixture knobs pushed all the way forward. All right, nice. Supposedly full rich is actually right here. Auto rich is right here. This is like emergency rich, but we're starting. What are you going to do? All right, so the first thing we got to do is we got to get this thing all nice and primed up and kind of ready to rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flip on the battery. We're going to get that little light come on, and we're just going to prime it. So the nice thing is the people who designed this provide you with priming information right on the tablet as well, or you can actually get a dynamic tooltip that'll tell you if you're primed enough. So let's go ahead and stick my head up here. I'm just going to hold this until it says the word primed. It says primed. I'm going to hold this until it says the word primed. And you can see they say the word primed on both sides. So both engines are now ready to start. Starting these guys is pretty darn easy. What you do is you have an engage and you have a start. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to engage the engine after you kind of crank it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick my hand up the side here. Go ahead and open the I had the window open. Silly me. So we'll go ahead and start on the right first. On Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3, Mississippi 4, Mississippi 5, Mississippi. Helps if I engage the right engine. Come on. It'll catch. There it goes. Nice. First try. Put a little bit of power there. Doesn't need a ton. All right, we'll go ahead and set the other one. Close that window. All right, now we're going to do 5 Mississippi on the starter here, and then we're going to go ahead and do the engage. No, we're doing, here we go. 1 Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3, Mississippi 4, Mississippi 5, Mississippi. Come on. Come on. There you go. Good boy. Nice. Good start on both engines. All right, give it just a tap here. We don't need much. It's going to be about right there. Sweet. Go ahead and close that window to remind me everything's all set on that side of the aircraft. And now we are ready to rock. Engines are running. We'll go ahead and run through all the little checks and stuff. One thing I was really impressed with this aircraft, or not impressed, depending on kind of how you look, is how complicated you have some of the components over on this side of things. You have all these different flaps. You have an oil cooler flap, you have the coolant flaps themselves, and then you have an intercooler flap, and they're all different. And one of the cool things is you actually have an oil cooler flap right here. You'll see that dynamically open and close as we're cruising around here. By the way, if you're curious where we are, we're down here in Quito, and this is in Peru, which is a really pretty region. And the reason I picked it is because this aircraft would have seen action here because it was basically going to be war surplus. So we're all good to go. Things are looking good. Our coolant temperature is still pretty low, especially since that left engine got started second there. Everything else is looking pretty darn good, though, so we're going to go ahead and get rolling here. So this aircraft is pretty classic because if I go to this view real quick and I start cranking real hard on my tail, you notice how the front wheel is not moving at all? Yeah, it's one of these kind of airplanes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the parking brake. I'm going to go ahead and unlock my throttles, kick my rudder to the left, and I'm just going to power up this engine just a little bit. Now notice the aircraft starts pivoting on that one. You just tap the brakes just a tiny bit, And now we're pretty much ready to go. It's just so wild how you have to be so aggressive with that. Man, I'm glad I have split throttles. Otherwise, people with differential brakes, that works great. I actually don't have differential brakes, which I know is a very popular flight simming kind of option. But it's something I used to have, but I went for a slightly more robust pedal for helicopters. And I've kind of had to live with it. Since this is a review flight, I'd like to take a couple comments here just to talk about things. One thing, as far as the modeling the aircraft, absolutely gorgeous. When you try this thing out in VR, you will just be blown away with how neat it looks. As far as systems goes, very impressed. I think this is pretty darn close to a study level aircraft in the sense that most of the stuff works. Obviously, we have no firearms because this is Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I have the feeling that Flight Sim is going to be releasing another combat flight sim at some point, and that's probably why we haven't seen any up until this point. But it would be neat. I would love to take this thing out and shoot it around, do some strafing runs on my old house or something like that. But unfortunately, we don't have that yet. Sound-wise, it's okay. Like I said, it almost sounds like you got it kind of like a real recording of a real plane. I just, I just feel like it's just a little thin sounding, but again, that's just my not so humble opinion here. All right, we're coming up to the runway here. I'm just going to give it just a little bit of power out of that side. We're not going to do a run up or anything like that, which my real pilot self goes, are you kidding me? You don't know that these engines are going to be safe and reliable unless you give them a quick little spin. I'm pretty confident that turn damage off. I'm not going to have an issue with that. All right, going to taxi over to the runway here. Go ahead and hold the brake. Ooh, going to kick it over. Come on, right engine. Come on, right engine. Not bad. All right, runway 36, facing the north. I'll give it just a couple little whacks to the side there, trying to line this up. I love how this is just such a World War II plane as far as trying to get it lined up. Reminds me of like lining up like an F-86 or something like that. All right, we'll link the throttles. Go ahead and tap the brakes there. There we go. Cool. So now we're just going to run through to make sure everything's okay. Let's see here. Coolant is in the green. Carburetor temperature is cold, but that's pretty typical. I'm not worried about generators. Good. Fuel pressure is good. Oil pressure is a little low, but nothing too bad. That looks good. That looks good. Reset our compass. That looks good. Look at our current altitude. It's incredible. Check to make sure this works. I don't know why we test that now. Hydraulic pressure is good. There's no flaps for takeoff. We should be on automatic rich, but this, for some whatever reason, Flight Simulator likes it on full rich. I'm not going to stress about it too much. One thing I will do is I'll turn on the oxygen because we're up pretty high. All right, looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and smoothly apply power. We're going to go up to 30 inches, and we're just going to do a quick power check. All right, both engines should synchronize with each other. Looks pretty good. Going to go ahead and kill the parking brake, and we're going to smoothly apply power. This is a turbo, well, it says supercharged in the manual, and I'm sure it's one of those kind of like part turbocharger, part supercharger. But during takeoff, I like to just kind of put it right around 50, 54. Once we get up to about 80 knots, we're going to pull back on the control. No, I did not set takeoff trim. I didn't need to. I like the way it takes off this way. And I'm just going to go ahead and raise up the nose. One thing I found out about this aircraft in some of my early tests is the fact that during takeoff here, you have to make sure that you don't starve the fuel of engine. One of the problems I had is basically I left one of the fuel pumps at normal and one at emergency, and one of my engines decided to shut down on me, which, I kind of need that during takeoff, so it's kind of one of those things. All right, fortunately, I do have the manual up, so we can go ahead and set this to max continuous now. We're going to go ahead and drop the manifold pressure down to about 44 inches-ish. That's about as close as we're going to get it. And we're going to back down the RPM down to about 2,600. Yay, complex high performance cert FTW. Sweet! And now we're going to go ahead and take a turn, and we'll start making our way towards our destination, which is Hacienda, which is down on the coast there. So what I do want to do, though, is I don't want to just, kind of cruise around in this thing and make comments, and I don't want to use it kind of aggressively. But what I do want to do is check to make sure everything looks okay before we start getting a little silly with it. This is max continuous power right now, so I don't want to do anything too abusive on it just yet. All right, so P-38, for those of you who know the history of the P-38, this is a fantastic aircraft. Our top ace in World War II was a P-38 pilot. They're known for their incredible range. I know them because when you go to shoot with them, you are shooting out the nose. So when you fire, the bullets go where you point. There's no deflection. I also love the fact there's no P-factor or torque here. The two propellers are going away from each other, which basically makes this aircraft fantastically stable. So we're at maximum, basically max continuous here, and we're doing about 230 miles an hour, which is pretty quick. And we're getting about 2,000 feet per minute, which given our local altitude is over 10,000, 11,000 feet now. That is incredible. I just cannot get over how much performance this aircraft has, given its age here. Let's see here. Don't touch any of that. See if it wants to move. It looks pretty good to me. Good, good, good. I like how it's got that little wobble. So just for fun, if I look out the window now, you can see that the radiator flap has actually popped itself open, which is exactly what I want. It's always fun when one's a little more closed than the other, which would actually be very realistic, because as we all know, twin engine planes in the real world don't behave. They kind of have a mind of their own. So let's go ahead and run through some quick paces here, just to kind of see what it's capable of. We'll go ahead and do a snap roll here. You're definitely not going to win any cool air trophies for that one. It is not the quickest snapper. We'll go ahead and try it in a flip real quick. Supposedly we have a negative carb capability here, so it should be pretty good. Build up a little bit of speed. Looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and center that ball. A little bit of left foot. That's pretty good. All instruments completely toppled. We're going to give it just a little bit of debris. We're going to let the nose pull it down itself. The rest of the way, we're going to come out of the throttle real quick. Oh, that is so smooth. That's okay, I'm not going to lie. That was probably one of the smoothest flips I think I've ever operated in a plane before. I'm really impressed with that. Okay, so that does it well. So, wow, that's like acrobatic. All right, let's go ahead and give it a classic little wind-up turn and see what happens here. So we're at 240 knots, at 40 miles an hour. Give it a little tug. Start tugging a little more. And it sticks back to our chest. And there's the snap. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. That is very, very controllable. I was really expecting that to be a much, much worse maneuver than it actually turned out to be. Not bad. Not bad at all. Like I said, I'm really impressed with this thing. It's got good communication. Like, you can feel it when it starts to get nasty. The not having that P factor pulling you all over the sky is excellent. When you go to work the rudders, they're very, very responsive. Like, I'm not having to hit anything too hard here. So let's go ahead and do one of my favorite maneuvers for the P-38. What do I got for speed? I got 200. That's enough. Let's go ahead and pull up. And right when it starts to fall, we're just going to go ahead and kick the rudder to the right. Pull up just slightly to my right. Just slightly. We're just going to kind of topple over. Oh, I just couldn't do it. I did not have the speed. I have my indicated airspeed right now. I'm doing 50 miles an hour. Oh. Good time to go ahead and test out the dive brakes. Dive flaps out. And you can see that they come out of the wings there, which should help alleviate some of our acceleration that we just picked up on that dive. Wow, that is not bad. Oh, by the way, we have a gun sight in case you want to see it. All right, come swinging this way. Keep our power about where it was, and not bad at all, not bad. Very impressive, really, really impressive. Like I said, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. This thing handles a lot better than I would expect it to. And I do fly this one over an IL-2 from time to time, and there's some pretty silly things you can do with it. But this is really, really well done. I gotta hand them the, again, I don't fly P-38s in the real world, so I can't speak to the accuracy of the flight model. But it's, like I said, it's fun. It's very, very easy to control. Like, you're not going to get yourself in as much trouble as you are going to be like in a Focke-Wulf 190 or BF 109 or anything like that. All right, so let's go ahead and take this thing up to a little bit of altitude and try seeing it in a cruise. All right, we brought this thing up to a nice, tall, high altitude here. We're about 20,000 feet. We're going to go ahead and set up some cruise power here. I'm just going to check the book to see what's going to be the optimum compensation. Let's see here. That's going to be our speed. That's going to be our fuel burn. All right, let's look 30 and 2,000. Looks pretty good. Let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and reduce manifold pressure first. Again, it's got that auto regulator on it, which makes it so much simpler to control. And we're going to go ahead and reduce the RPM to 2,000 revolutions per minute, comrades. All right, it's about 2,000 right there. Give it just a tiny bit more power. That's pretty good, about 30 and 20. So now we're going to go ahead and set our mixture controls to the auto lean setting. All right, that's going to be auto rich. Should be auto lean right there. Perfect. So, of course, there's no way for us to check to make sure we got everything right here, which is, kind of frustrating. But they did give us the tablets. By the way, in case you were curious, I did turn the automatic pilot on. There is no autopilot on the real P-38. This is really just an exercise in what can it do here. All right, let's take a look at our live data here. So right now we are pushing, fuel flow is 47.3 gallons per hour. According to the book, we should be doing 48 gallons per hour. Excellent. Yeah, so I did a really nice job mixture. Actually, let me try this. And push it just a teeny tiny bit. Might as well be perfect, right? Click, click, click. Oh, too far. Actually, I had it better where it was. I'm just going to leave it right there. Not even going to look at it. Nice. All right, so let's see what we have for speed. So one of the things they give us is this cool little GPS, which I think is neat that they've kind of like integrated into everything. So if you needed it, you can just quickly grab it again. So let's see what we got as far as performance here. Like I said, I'm about 250 right now. Everything is up. I don't have my dive flaps hanging out. I don't have any regular flaps or anything like that. And we'll see what we got as far as performance goes. Come on, GPS. Well, of course, why am I using the GPS? I can just grab that tablet again. All right, what do we got? What do we got? So let's see here. We're doing 257 or 357 miles per hour, so we're moving pretty quick. That looks good. Wind direction, I'm not worried about anything like that. Components, the oil cooler is closed. Indeed it is. So it looks pretty good, but range-wise, it looks like we have 1,227 miles, which is really, really impressive if you ask me. That's actually a pretty long flight, and that's 4 hours and 1 minute endurance, which that's going to be plenty of time for me. I'm not in really a rush to fly that long of a distance. All right, GPS is caught up, 305 knots. That is impressive. This is definitely an aircraft that if you want to go far and you want to have a nice stable flight, like I said, they did a really, really nice job. All right, let's fast forward to the hard part, which is landing. All right, we're just getting its visual range of our destination, which is going to be right off for 12 o'clock there. I'm just going to confirm real quickly that everything is looking good on my side. Let's see here, pop down here. How many times did I shut that off trying to reach for this switch? We should be in normal mode, which we are. All right, normal, 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 normal. Go ahead and pull this out real quick. And both my engines just cut out. Yeah, both my engines just cut out. Apparently, they did not tolerate that. No big deal. Engines are back. All right, so that's good. Let's start making our way down. I just want to make sure this is off, which it is. All right, here we go. So we're going to make our approach. Like I said, we're going to Hacienda here, which is going to be right down there on the coast. The quickest and easiest way to get down, of course, if we want it to be brutal, is we can basically just pop out the dive flaps and I'll put this thing in a death dive. I think that's going to be a bit much for us. So I'm actually instead just going to give it just a couple extra RPM. Come up to about 2,500 here. It looks a little bit better. You can see the engine spinning up a little. Go ahead and pop this into the auto rich position, which is going to be about right there. And we're just going to slowly start making our way down. Good time to go run through our fuel checks here, make sure everything looks pretty good. And we burnt a little bit of fuel on the right, not too much on the left. Let's go take a look down here. What do we have as far as fuel goes? Let's see here. Main is on, main gallon, outer wing on. We don't have anything like that. At any point, of course, we can come in here and flip this on. So right now, right engine fuel cross feed. Right engine now looks pretty good. I'm not going to mess with it or anything like that. All right, so landing this aircraft is incredibly simple. This is one of the few multi-engine aircraft that I know in existence that because it doesn't have that critical engine now that you have to worry about all the time, you basically can land this thing like it was a jet, and it's a very, very, very stable approach. There's not a lot of weirdness that you're going to be experiencing as you're going to come in for a landing here. It's just going to be just a little bit of, what's the best way to say it? A little bit of speed control challenge. One of the problems you have is this aircraft has an awesome amount of drag. So when you are coming in for that final approach, wait until you see how much power it needs in order to keep you at the appropriate altitude. All right, we're on approach. Got my dive flaps out to help slow us down a little bit, kind of break up a little bit of the speed. Looks pretty good here. Go ahead and retract those dive flaps, and there is our destination right off the nose. A good time, of course, to go ahead and double check to make sure your RPM is set correctly. Everything along those lines is ready to go. We have more than low enough airspeed here to start kind of dirtying up the aircraft. I'm just going to confirm to make sure everything's good. Landing gear extended speed is going to be 175. So I'm actually going to pull the nose up just a little bit. Put those landing gear down. Let's see here, flaps speed, let's see, cruising speed, max speed, flaps extended, 8 degrees of flaps is 250. We can actually put 2 notches of flaps down. 250 is the balanced speed here. So we're going to get those things coming down right away. These flaps are incredibly effective on this aircraft, is up and what my experiences are so far. All right, everything looks good. All right, we've got to keep an eye on our speed here. We can't really be exceeding 175. If we do that, we could do some damage to the wheels. Which again, kind of surprising that the wheels are that much further off than everything else on the aircraft. But hey, that happens. All right, let's take a look. Looks good, looks good. Look at the size of the flaps on that thing. It's incredible. All right, come to the right a little bit. Looking pretty good. Take a look, pretty good. Approach speed on this thing is usually between 90 and 100 knots. Seems to kind of be the appropriate speed. Getting down to that speed is a bit of a process, and we're getting hit all over the place with this ridge lift. This is getting us pretty good. Doesn't surprise me. One thing I do want to check, though, is I'm finishing up my video here. So I just want to confirm that I'm burning fuel evenly here. Because, yeah, no, I did. All right, I'm just going to make myself insane like I always do. All right, go ahead and pull the throttle back just a little more. Double check everything, make sure gunfuls checks, gas undercarriage, make sure propel flaps, light speed. I think that is good to go. Nose up just a little bit more. Let's see, our last notch of flaps is 150 miles an hour. Last notch of flaps down. This thing should slow down to nothing. When you look at how far down those flaps are. Holy smokes. That is impressive. All right, that's going to get us coming in pretty nice. Now, one of the neat things here is we can actually come over to our little handy-dandy tablet. Like I say, this thing is great. I'm so glad. I wish more aircraft had this. It's just kind of like a built-in thing here. But coming down here, let's see here, miles per hour. We can see our rate of climb, our rotation speed. That's always super. Takeoff, approach. Let's see, 160 miles an hour. That's going to be run up. Oh, looks good, looks good. All right, delightful. All right, let's put this thing down on the ground without smacking to the ground. What do they call it? Cockpit resource management. There we go. You didn't see that? All right, that should be good enough to slow us down. Very, very, very stable aircraft. Like, I could probably make the runway from here. Just a little high. I think it was about 100 miles per hour. A little bit of that ridge lift. Cannot believe the way the nose just drops on this thing because it's just got such big flaps on it. That looks good. Come up, sit a little higher in my seat here. Just a little easier. It's pretty awesome. We don't have any asymmetrical airflow here, which makes it so much safer to approach with. Looks pretty good. One last check for the gear. Yep, looks good. We're just going to go ahead and pop this thing on the ground. Now, the ground effect for Microsoft is going to be a little aggressive here, so watch this. Pull the throttle back. See how it doesn't slow down? Yeah. And right on the big blockers. What an amazing airplane. Let the nose down gently. Nice. So as far as reviews goes, they did a really nice job. I could probably put together a video series explaining how to fly this, but I need to spend a little more time playing around with it. There's still a couple maneuvers on it that I'm not 100% comfortable with. Still kind of getting the little bugs out here and there. And the engine management, of course, is very interesting because I usually don't run it through an extreme sort of run here. But it is definitely a cool plane. It's worth checking out if you're into kind of World War II planes. Like I said, of all the World War II planes that I have for flight sim, this is probably the one that gets the most use because it's just great. It just does everything that I need it to do. It's very, very stable, very, very high performance, and really an awesome package. Enjoy.